Hi everyone, this is Xueting Ni. I was supposed to be on the Chinese SF and film panel. For some reason I could not get into the room, seemingly due to some technical issues. So I'm going to record my answers to the questions here, so that at least those of you who've made the effort to go to attend the panel will have something. Starting with, which release of Chinese SFF film or TV strikes you as the most impressive? Well, where to start? From what the host has mentioned, we had some great classics in the 1980s, like Wonder Boy, Dislocation, but also films like Death Ray on Coral Island, which was based on one of Tong En-jung's novels. That was an absolute classic, very, very well told, well made. You also have things like the Detective Jin Ming films. That's a creation of a sci-fi detective by Ye Yonglie based on his novels. In 2008, we had things like CJ7, which was a Hong Kong and Chinese co-production, China's own version of E.T. 2008 was a very interesting time in nerd history because there was an explosion of geek culture around the world. And I was super impressed that China was doing this mainstream sci-fi film then. It was still during a process of experimenting, and so some of the attempts weren't fantastic. Domestic productions like Kung Fu Traveler, which was not great in quality, but I did appreciate the attempt to blend two very popular genres, Kung Fu films and science fiction. And then more investment was poured into the sci-fi industry, and we got bigger budgets. We had these big blockbusters, and the Chinese at the moment are still very impressed with their big explosions, pretty spaceships. We had things like Shanghai Fortress, which was a very artistic film, very pretty spaceships and imaginings of the future, and very impressive giant machines. However, the story was really touch and go. So by the time we got to films like Wandering Earth, we had a very sleek look, right, production quality, but also a very integrated story. But you can only go so far with bigger and bigger budgets and shinier spaceships. So, which is why I was really happy to see films like Journey to the West come out a couple of years ago. Now, this film had a lot of love within China itself, as I saw when I went to Chengdu Worldcon in last year, because it's very much about the nerds like us, the editors and the publishers, the fans, the readers who are devoted, and no matter what, to their love of science fiction. And it takes the genre into a completely different direction. 6th gen filmmaking, urban generation, those filmmakers who looked at people on the periphery and told stories of people on the margins, experimenting with mockumentary style, handheld cameras, such things. And it also blended in mythology, Chinese pop culture, so mythology like Monkey King, Ultraman, etc., pop culture. And in terms of TV series, I've really been enjoying Rattan, which is based on a web novel by Wei Yu, and it's a They Live Among Us story about a plant-based alien life form that's set in contemporary times. I really like it because it blends in magic and science. So there are cultivator-style clan characters in there, for example, and through explorations of mutation and evolution, it explores things like themes like what defines humanity and identity, even gender and senses of belonging. So Next question. What do you think is unique about Chinese SFF works, shaping the worldview of future or the ancient world? Is this uniqueness dynamic, and is its creation related to the reality of China's development situation? I think for China in particular, its classical culture and its views of the past is particularly connected to its future, precisely because it's been able to look at its heritage like it's never been able to do before due to a lot of historical factors. So people are doing a lot of that in the arts, in the entertainment, in the storytelling. For example, we have the lunar program being named after the lunar spirits, Yu Tu and Chang'e. Then we have God of Fire, Zhurong, in the Mars program, and Tianwen, named after the work of the true poet Qu Yuan. But also we have biological discoveries like the Dukang gene, named after the Chinese god of wine. So there really isn't, especially for China, that big a division between the past and the future, as you would expect. And a lot of current fiction that blends fantasy and science fiction, especially things like the alternate universes that link the future and the past. For example, all the Light Chaser animation films, the steampunk Republican retelling of a Ne Zha story that updates the Dragon Kings into crime lords during the Republican times, and then Ne Zha is this motorbike riding problem youth who then eventually realizes his powers, and the whole film has this fantastic aesthetic of Chinese steampunk, silk punk. Things like that, and a subsequent film, Yang Jian, which is a sky pirate take on the god, who is also Erlang Shen. Then the other film, Green Snake, which is a Mad Max style story retelling of a traditional folktale based on the snake spirit. So a lot of current fiction that blends fantasy and science fiction, the Chuanyue genre, is ideal for exploring this kind of connection. They are actually portal fantasies, people being transported into a different world, different time, different dimension. And one story I'm really excited about is Transformers Ne Zha. Not just because I'm a huge Transformers fan from G1 onwards, and I've written about mythology, but when they first made the series, they actually had characters like Optimus Prime, Megatron, turning up in the times of Ne Zha and the Monkey King. And then it didn't really do very well with test audiences, and so they remade it into a Chuanyue story. So now we have a child in a futuristic time who loves his robots and his Transformers, but is also a huge fan of Ne Zha, thinks he's a great hero, and all he wants to do, his greatest dream, is to be a hero like Ne Zha. So with this machine that can turn people's dreams and desires and fantasies into virtual reality, he is transported into a world in which he is fighting robots with Ne Zha there as his mentor. So it sounds absolutely fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to it. Now, question 3. Characters in SSF are usually beyond natural human beings, including humans with superpowers or non-humans, both intelligent and animal. But stories are all centered on revealing human nature. What do you think about characterization in SFF film and TV? Is the effective relationship between characters somehow related to traditional Chinese culture? I think that the characterization is very well rounded and has a lot of depth at the moment, because precisely because a lot of the films and TV series are adapted from novels, and we're currently getting a flourish of online output in web literature, a lot of new subgenres, the blending of existing genres, and these very, very well written stories in every SSF genre you can think of that are published online for a very competitive market, and therefore need to be gripping and with characters that draw people in. So there's very good material to work with, and certainly a lot of Chinese, because family is such a central concept for in Chinese culture, both now and in the past. There's a lot in every genre, even sci-fi and fantasy, that deals with family relationships, even though we might be talking about supernatural beings, ghosts or spirits or robots, aliens. The output from the contemporary diversification is very good at examining the Chinese psyche. However, we do have this issue where films and TV productions, because they're such popular media, they're kind of created by committee by lots of different production companies, and there's kind of influencing decision making in the adaptation and the need to get around the censorship in order to be released, puts a lot of pressure on the makers to toe the line in significant neoconservatism, neo-Confucianism in Chinese society at the moment. So they are really clamping down on issues of kind of gender diversity, some of the postmodernist views of the world, and enforcing a more traditional and conventional views, the enforced optimism or gender conformity storylines behaviour. So I think that's really not helpful, especially when it's a shame that the storyline is changed. It is not as excellent as how the novelist envisioned it and kind of presents a not so ideal view of Chinese storytelling to the world, because those medias which are streamed online, those series, they're more accessible to global audiences, especially when they're subtitled and they can be seen in English. Last theme is on the current challenges and opportunities for SSF film and TV in the international market. So that kind of follows on from the previous question. In China, there's a lot of creativity, a lot of innovation, and a lot of innovation that's coming out of old genres, new ways of telling these stories, new ways of seeing things. But these kind of innovation, they always build on cultural heritage and shared experiences from this creative ecology. But if you are to then bring this out to the world, where there'll be a bigger market, then I think the danger is that it's very easy to want to make that easy money and let a Western director turn it into something that's more generic, or more to the taste of international audiences. I think there is a danger of the works losing their authenticity or their connection with what makes them unique in the first place. However, I do think that if they get it right, they get the adaptations right, there is a lot of market for Chinese SFF in film internationally. For example, we only need to look at series like The Untamed and series like Word of Honor, where they really negotiated around the censorship well, in that they were keeping the queer romance, employing the traditional signifiers of romance, which is very subtle, even whether it's heterosexual or homosexual, and stayed away from the more explicit content. And it was an excellent production in terms of storytelling, in terms of production quality, and the casting. So if they get the balance right, then I think there's a huge market internationally. I think there continues to be series that are doing that. Another issue is probably translation. That really, of course, I would say that as a translator. However, it's commonly acknowledged that the subtitles of Chinese TV series and film, it has been overlooked, and sometimes the fan translations they use are great. Sometimes they miss the mark, and especially for series they've got historical settings or alternate dynastic universes, and very sort of indigenous concepts, ideas, designs that are based on indigenous culture. The translation is really important for the audience to be able to understand and to get the full picture and not be confused of what this character is going on about. So yeah, I think there are challenges, but definitely a lot of opportunities too. So Chinese SF is the area I very much engage with through my writings, both longer form non-fiction and articles, short form, and also in translations. So if you haven't read Synopticon, I really recommend it, and my horror anthology Synophagia is coming out next month, but there are limited copies on sale at the Rebellion stand at Worldcon. Furthermore, if you want to stay in touch on social media, I'm at Xuetingni, Xueting, on Twitter, Blue Sky, that's bluesky.social, at Xuetingni bluesky.social, and Snow Pavilion on Instagram. I publish regular posts on Chinese popular culture, both traditional and contemporary. I work with lots of platforms to publish articles, also ones on my own website. So yeah, hope you enjoy them and stay in touch.